Hey there, and welcome to Mama Belle's home. My name is Cassidy. In today's video, we're going to go over the different components and things you need to consider when trying to create a homeschool schedule that works for both you and your kiddos. Before we get into that, I want to go ahead and introduce myself. Like I said, my name is Cassidy, and I am a homeschooling, homemaking mama to 7 kiddos, and I actually have absolutely no background in homeschooling. I was a public school kid. That's all I ever knew. I had no intentions in homeschooling. It was just kind of something that was placed in my lap. When I started homeschooling about 6 years ago, almost 7 now, my son was due to go into kindergarten, but all of the free programs were filled up and we could not afford to put him into a private school. And then my oldest daughter, she was in 3rd grade at the time, and she was just dealing with some mean girl problems. And so I just felt led to homeschool. And I remember my husband asking me, do you think that you have the patience for that? And I just remember thinking, no, I absolutely do not have the patience to homeschool, but if I don't do it, I'm never going to. And so my first year, maybe even 2 years of homeschooling was actually extremely challenging, and I had to do a lot of undoing in my head, and just realizing that public school and homeschool are not the same thing, and trying to put a public school time frame, schedule, routine, any of those things into a homeschool is usually not going to work out. And so my first month actually of homeschooling, I cried more than I think I've ever in any of the things that I've done as a mom, except for maybe like postpartum, the first baby, because I just didn't know what I was doing as a single mom. It's nuts. Anyways, I worked hard. I went on Timberdoodle. I ordered like the huge curriculum box that has everything that your kid will ever need for 3rd grade or in 4th grade and in kindergarten, and I was so overwhelmed, and I ended up taking a month off from schooling and just reading, researching, watching videos, just doing anything that I could to help me learn, understand, and figure this stuff out. And I'm so thankful that there are women out here that are sharing their homeschooling journey and their curriculum choices and all of that, because it was so helpful for me. But as of late, I've had a couple people coming to me who have just needing advice or kind of tips or encouragement. Honestly, it's mostly just encouragement. They're wanting to start homeschooling, or they just started homeschooling, and I don't think enough people are saying how difficult it can be and how challenging. And yes, it's a blessing, and yes, it's amazing, but it is not easy by any means. And I know that the scheduling portion of it is really overwhelming to many people, and that's what inspired this video today. I want to talk about how we can structure our day in our homeschool so that we're not just taking care of our kids and their learning and everything like that, but we're also considering our needs and what works for us, as well as mothers who are doing the schooling. And yes, there's sacrifices to be made, and there's challenges to, you know, it's a learning experience for both mom and kids, or whoever's doing the schooling. It's a learning experience. You have to figure out what works for you and your kiddos. So with all of that said, and now you kind of understand my background and where I'm coming from, let's go ahead and get into the first thing that you need to consider when setting up a homeschool schedule that works for you and your kiddos. Okay, so the first thing I want you to think about, consider, and reflect on is understanding your family needs. So the first part of that is assessing your children and how they learn best, their learning style. Are they children who like to do the extra activities and the arts and crafts, or are they more just like black and white? They want to get in, do the school work, the workbook page, whatever it is, and then move on. Do they do better maybe outside, doing more stuff outdoors? Are they more active? Or can they sit a little bit longer? Are they like more left brain? Are they more right brain? Like, some of these things actually come into play in a huge way when choosing curriculum and setting up your schedule. I have some kiddos that are ADHD, and so the way I set up my schedule might be different than most people, and that's okay. But I've learned that I can get a good amount of school in a little bit of time, and then we can have more free time to play outside, which we're still extending our learning out there as well, or doing some activities like cooking, or different projects around the house, like arts and craft type things that are still incorporating the lessons in there, but in a just different way that is kind of getting them thinking out of the box, or going about a lesson in a different way that's not just like sitting there and getting them more active. And that is a huge portion of, I feel like, our homeschool. Is the beauty of homeschool is you can literally cater the education to each child and really give them what they need and encourage them where they're at. And so making, assessing your children and just making sure you understand how they learn and how they work best is going to be a huge component of how you create your schedule for your homeschool. Along with assessing each child, you want to understand the family dynamic. What kind of age ranges do you have? Do you have a bunch of littles and you're only homeschooling one? Do you have more big ones and maybe you have a little? Or are you like me where you have some big, some little, and a little bit in between? Depending on how your family is set up, it is going to influence your schedule. So for me, my oldest one is basically, she's in high school now. She is in her junior year. She's pretty much online at this point. She's doing basically everything on her own. Like I'm involved very little in her schooling right now, other than like going over different assignments, making sure that she's doing what she needs to do, and that she's all caught up and everything like that. Other than that, she's basically on her own. And then my second, fourth, and sixth grader, those guys, I am working one-on-one, but they have a little bit more independence, and I'll go more into like how I set up their schedule with certain subjects. But for the most part, those three are kind of like grouped together. And then I have my 18-month-old, my 3-year-old, and my 4-year-old. And so usually when we're getting into the thick of lessons, like the core lessons and things like that, baby is usually down for a nap. And then I have the 3 and 4, and those two are usually paired together doing some like preschool, fun school, arts and crafts, kinetic sand, Play-Doh, drawing, coloring, that kind of stuff. So they're entertained, they're learning in a way, but for the most part, like, my main focus is on that middle section, and I gear a lot of our curriculum studies as far as like science and history goes on those 3 middle kids, because that is where the bulk of my focus and attention is right now. And so when choosing books for read out loud and all of that, like, those are the kids that I'm gearing the read out louds to. The little ones just like me reading to them. They don't really care what they're listening to. And if I can throw in a picture or two, that's great. But I'm trying to entertain and keep the focus of those 3 middle ones. And so that family dynamic really comes into play in how I create my schedule, the curriculum that I choose, the read out louds, like I said, that I choose. And so you need to consider what your family dynamic looks like in trying to figure out the right schedule for you. So having like a notebook where you can keep notes of, how your children's assessments and how they learn, where they learn, kind of like what level they're at, and then just keeping up to date with that, updating it and changing it as it needs. Part of homeschool is being flexible and, like I said, catering to those kiddos. And so you want to have some kind of record for yourself so that you can go over it and reassess and figure things out as you go. Okay, and then the second thing is goals. So understanding the goals for you and your kiddos during your homeschool, having certain goals is going to help you be able to structure your schedule, what you need to do, how it's set up, having goals for the year, the month, the week even, and per kid is really helpful, because then you can break it all down, right? You want to have an overall arching goal. So let's say maybe one of your kiddos is a little behind in reading, so you want to get them bumped up to their level or then some, and so you know that you should put a huge emphasis on them reading and growing those skills. And then that's the yearly goal. And then how are you going to break that up by semester, trimester, or month, however you want to do it. I kind of go by month. I just prefer it that way. It's just easier. And then once you have the yearly goal and you're going to break it down into a smaller section, okay, so for the first month, or the first month of wherever we're at with this goal, what are some things that you can do, and then breaking it up by week and making sure that you're hitting those goals. It's just gonna help you being able to cater to your kids, again, education, figuring out what you need, what they need to hit those goals, and then that it's going to depend on your schedule. Because if a student is behind in their reading, then you're probably going to have more of your learning in the reading realm. Like they're excelling in math and they need to be brought up in reading. So you probably will do maybe, 3 or 4 days of math and maybe 5 days of reading. Or for language arts, maybe they're really, really good at reading, but their writing skills are behind. So then it's like, okay, maybe we only have 2 or 3 days of reading, or they can have like free time reading, but we're gonna really add in more of that, sentence structure, how to write a paragraph, how to be creative, like those kind of activities. And so that's gonna also determine, depending on the goals for the kid, or for your school, or for you, whatever it is, how, just the overarching goals, breaking them down for the kid for the year, is going to also impact your guys' schedule and how you have it set up. And so we have an overall in general family schedule for the week that we have certain things to do, but then each kid also has certain things that they're doing each day, if that makes sense, based on their goals and my goals. And I really do suggest, I forget the book, I'll include it down in the description because I'm not thinking about it. I think it's like How to Plan Your Year. I think so. Anyways, I'll link it down. It's a super good resource as far as like learning how to build those foundations of your homeschool, how to structure your day, what kind of like time schedule you want to have. It's a great resource. I love it. And one of the things that they talk about is including your kids in their goal planning. So talking to them, what do you want to learn? What kind of things would you like to go over in science? Where do you feel like you're doing really well? Where do you think that you need some work? Maybe there's something you'd like to learn. Maybe it's an extracurricular activity that a sport they would like to try, or some more arts and crafts, or maybe they would like to learn about horses. And how can you structure their lessons and their day or their week or their month, or however, to include those things. And I think that sometimes it can be extremely overwhelming to try to figure out these goals and these plans and these lessons for our children. And the help that they give you, because you don't want to be pushing them to learn something that they're really not interested in. It's going to be a whole lot harder to get them to enjoy love of learning than it's going to be harder to get them to enjoy and love learning and grow that love of learning when they are learning about things that they do not care about, that they're not interested in. And I'm not saying like everything is going to be able to do that, right? But maybe you have your math curriculum in a way that they really enjoy doing it, and it's in a way that their mind is able to understand. And then maybe including some things like if they love horses, if they love dinosaurs, if they love trucks, if they love something like that, having lessons that are including that, or maybe one day a week for math, you do like a lesson worksheet plan that has to do with like trucks or some kind of animal or whatever it is like that. Just making it as interesting as possible. And I'm not saying go out and like do all this extra work and have all of this extra curriculum, but if we're really, if the purpose in homeschool is to really cater to our children and teach them and get them to love learning and all of these things that we're doing as homeschool moms, or all of the reasons why we're choosing to homeschool, incorporate those things into the lessons. It makes it more interesting, it makes it more fun, and you will have less resistance, I have found, when it's something that they're really enjoying or really into. And it doesn't have to be all the time. Sometimes, like most of the time, what I'll do is I get to choose, like for instance, for science, I will choose a unit for science, and then I will let them choose the next one, or I'll rotate through the 3 middle kids what they want to learn about. And that's one way to incorporate and just help them make the one, you're encouraging independence, choosing what they want to learn about. 2, you're including them and they get to make a decision in what they're learning about, and they're more interested in doing it when it's them making the choice. So I hope that helps give you some ideas and just get your brain kind of like working in how you can use those different goals with each kid to influence your schedule at home in your homeschool. Okay, now we're going to get into the part about structuring our day. How do we structure our day? What kind of different styles are there to schedule? What kind of routines can we create? I'm going to go ahead and share my schedule or what a typical week looks like for us to give you an example. But there are different resources, like the book I said, I think it's Planning Your Year or something like that. I forget the name of it, but I will link it down below because it goes over the different types of scheduling you can have, like block scheduling, loop scheduling, unit studies, traditional schedules, and I think it was just really helpful for me to understand the different things. And like I said, I use a mix of those. So I don't do anything really traditional in our homeschool, but it is a mix of things. So for our core studies, like I had mentioned before, our language arts and our math, we do that as a block study. Our science is on a loop, and then our history is on a loop. Our science is a unit study style of scheduling. And so typically what a normal day will look like for us is we will do Bible time for about 20 minutes or so. I will then do usually like a snack and cleanup after that, just to get them moving and get the wiggles out before we get into anything. And then we do some math, some language arts, and depending on the day, that will determine on whether we're doing science or history, because we kind of rotate through that depending on the unit that we're in or the curriculum we're using. And then Friday we don't do science or history on that day. It's a little bit of a shorter day, but that's usually what we call fun Fridays. So if we do like a field trip, or if we're gonna have like an extra activity, we're gonna cook something, those kind of activities we'll do on a Friday because it's more of a funner activity, and we try to get outside more on Fridays. And that's kind of what our schedule looks like on a day-to-day, weekly basis. And like I said, our curriculum, it depends on which kid, which curriculum they're doing. It depends on the subject that we're doing, and that will determine what the schedule is. And so for the most part, those 3 middle kids are in similar routines or schedules as far as like their school lessons go. My youngest, the 2nd grader, she's a little bit behind in reading, and so we do a little bit more emphasis on the reading, and we're not working so much on the writing right now. I highly suggest with all of this, I cannot emphasize this enough, be flexible and try things out. You can always adjust it. So maybe you like the idea of a loop schedule, or maybe you like the idea of a traditional schedule or more block schedule. Try it out, see if it works, give it some time. Don't just like try it for a day or two or maybe like a week. Give it a little bit of time, a couple weeks or so, and figure out if it's something for you. Can you kind of mix it up? Can you tailor it to you and your family, or is it something that's just not going to work for you and it's time to move on? Like I said, the first 2 years of my homeschooling experience, my journey, career, whatever you want to call it, there was a lot of adjusting. There was a lot of trying things out and testing it out, and depending on maybe me having a baby or more extracurriculars as far as like sports are concerned. My husband's schedule has changed a lot over the years. We were in the military, or he was in the military. We were a military family when we first got started, and now we're not. He works like a regular 9 to 5, and so our schedules have changed with that too. I used to do, I kind of still do it in a way where we will school for about 6 weeks and then take a week off, and then we go to school for 6 weeks. So we hit it, we go, we do the things, and then we can look forward to taking a week or so off. And then the reason why I started that, the reason why I love that so much, was because my husband was gone away a lot for work. He had a bunch of work trips, training, all kinds of stuff, and then deployment. And so it was a way that we can tailor our schedule as far as homeschool is concerned to his schedule, to where when he was gone at work, we would do our normal thing, but then when he would have some time off, a couple days a week, whatever it was, we put school aside and we just focused on spending family time. So just try to be as flexible, test things out and see, and if it doesn't work, it's totally okay. That is the beauty of homeschool, is you get to figure out what works for you. You get to be flexible. You get to cater to your guys' schedule, what's going on in your life right now. Are you expecting? Are you going to have a baby? Is there a sick little one? All of those things come into play. And so you want to try to be as flexible as possible. And that doesn't mean that you're not doing a good job. And if there is a day that you're just like not getting to the lessons, and maybe you're watching like a movie that's a time frame for history, or maybe it's a science subject or whatever, like, it's okay to have those days. Because I remember in school all the time we would have movies. It was like, why? But it was nice. It was nice to have like a day off. I'm sure the teachers enjoyed not having to do lessons. And so you can be flexible. Homeschool is like a lifestyle. It's not just school at home, if that makes sense. And so, trying to be flexible and working with it, like, I cannot emphasize this enough. I feel like I'm repeating myself way too much, but I really, really, like, especially if you're just starting out, if this is your first year, if you have a life circumstance that is switching things up and you're just like, I don't understand because it was working this way, this whole time and now it's not, like, it's okay. And just be flexible, adjust as you need it. There are going to be times where you're hitting it hard, and there are going to be times where it's a little bit more difficult to do those lessons. And just give yourself grace, adjust and be flexible as you need, and then just keep on going at it, okay? Okay, and then there's tools and resources. Like I said, there's already a book that I had mentioned, the Planning Year. I forget the actual name of it, but I will link it down. I will have like a little section for my Amazon storefront where I have a lot of my favorite homeschool curriculums, planners. Mostly, honestly, it's books that I have read that have been so influential and helpful with scheduling, with curriculum choices, with mindset for myself, because like I said, I come from public school background, and there's a lot of shifting you have to do when it comes to your mindset and understanding of what homeschool is versus public school or private school, and just the dynamics, the differences that those are, and how you can incorporate it in different things. I also have created a resource for Bible time if you're interested in adding a Bible time or trying to figure out the right way or curriculum to start a Bible time with your kiddos. I have a guide that I'll link down below. You can go check out. And it just gives you some ideas for curriculum. It gives you ideas for how to incorporate it in your life, in your home, in your homeschool, throughout the day, and just like living life, and a few other things that like goodies that you'll probably really enjoy if that's something. But like I said, any resources or tools that I have enjoyed or I think are well worth the investment, I'll go ahead and put it down in the description if you want to go ahead and check those out. Okay, and there's two other things that I want to go ahead and just do like a quick overview that will also impact your scheduling and how your guys' homeschool routine is going to work out. And that is creating some independence in your kiddos. When they are little, when it's the preschool, sorry, when it's like preschool, kindergarten, the early elementary years, you're going to be doing a lot of hands-on. There's going to be a lot of involvement with you, versus once they start getting older in like the 4th, 5th, 6th grade and high school range, you're going to have some more independence. And I highly encourage creating some independence with your kiddos. So for instance, I use teaching textbooks for my older kids in math. It's a way that I think that they do well with it. It's interactive, it's fun, but it's to the point, and the computer is the one that is letting them know that they didn't get it right and stuff like that. And I think that it's just easier for the kids to have the computer telling them like, hey, that wasn't right, let's go back and figure it out. And then I can go with them if they're still having trouble after a couple tries. I think they give you like 2 or 3 tries on a certain problem, and then I know in the parent portal of that I can go in and I can see, okay, hey, we're having troubles with these questions, let's go ahead and go over them, let's figure them out together. If we need to switch the score on that, then we can do that. But I really like teaching textbooks to create some of that independence and get them to do their lessons by themselves once they get older. I usually start that around 4th grade. because I feel like they're a little bit more capable of doing it at that age. And again, it'll depend on your kid and where they are in their development, and you know, it could be earlier, it can be later, it just depends on the child. And then language arts is something that I am very involved in for the most part. My 6th grader, he's a little more independent. I still help my 4th grader, and then I'm very hands-on with the 2nd grader. And then my high schooler, like I said, she's basically on her own. I help her very, very little. I'm involved very, very little with her lessons. And then, but then science, like I'm full-on hands-on with science and history. I'm the one walking them through the lessons. I'm the one doing the different activities. Sorry, I could not figure out that word. And so I try, you know, if there is an arts and craft project in the history lesson, I will let them have independence with that, and it just will help free you up, because I have other things. I have cleaning to do, I have laundry to do, I have my little ones to take care of, I got, you know, my YouTube, I have my digital business, I have a lot of other things going on that, yes, those are like all on the back burner compared to like homeschool, but I try to create that independence, which is not only good for them and their for their confidence, and just building that up and letting them figure things out on their own without me hovering or sitting by, which is really good for them, but it also gives me time so that I can go and do the other things. Okay, so for instance, like Bible time for us, I'm very hands-on. I'm walking them through every one of them. We're doing it together. It's a group thing. Science, same thing. I'm walking them through. I'm helping them with the experiments if there's anything like that. I'm very much hands-on. History, it's touch and go. It depends on what's going on. So the main portion of the lesson, I am. If we're cooking something, I'm usually helping them. If it's like an arts and crafts, I might like run it over for them, or give like an example of what it's going to look like, and then I let them go about it. The older ones, right? Like the younger kiddos, they'll usually like color or do the arts and crafts with us, but they're not really doing too much. Maybe they might listen to the story, but those things are very much I'm involved. And so those things, I know I need to be paying attention, I need to be present, I need to be, you know, there. And then their math and their language arts, though, I can be more hands off, except for my 2nd grader. I can be much more hands off with that, and so that will kind of come into play. So I just wanted to go ahead and say that, like, you want to create some independence. You don't want to have your kids depending on you. It's good for their confidence and building them up, as well as giving you time to be able to do other things. And a typical, I just want to go ahead and throw this out there, a typical homeschool day for us is around 2 to 3 hours. We usually, from like Bible time to our core lessons to whatever day is alternating between science and history, it is only 2 to 3 hours that we're spending on homeschool. So one of the issues that I had early on in my homeschooling journey is trying to fit everything, like I had said, in one day. I was trying to do math, geography, history or social studies, whatever that is, science. I was trying to do math, I was trying to do reading, I was trying to do writing. Like, I was trying to do everything. It was like 7 or 8 subjects of things that I was trying to do every single day, and it was just too much. Like, I was overwhelmed, my kiddos were overwhelmed, we were frustrated, we were having issues, we were like combative. Like, it was really bad. Like, that first month was really, really bad, and I had to learn what was our max, right? Like, you're gonna have challenges and you're gonna have to figure these things out as you go. And sometimes it's like, okay, am I just making them do too much? Have they been sitting here doing too much and they're tired and they need to just take a break? Is it time for a snack? Should we break for you know, outside? And I've done this a lot. So I used to be a year-round schooler, so we would school year-round. It was like 3 semesters or 3 trimesters is what we would do. So we would have our spring, our fall, our summer, and our spring, and we were light in the summer. But once we moved up here to Idaho from California, the summers, like, you have to hit them hard, because it's a small little window of sunshine and fun that you can have before it starts getting cold and snowy and all of the things. And so our first, I was like, we're gonna do very light. Like, I like to stick with some language arts, some math throughout, like, all year, because it's such a, like, I learned for me and my kiddos, it was really, really hard to have a fast stop at the end of the year, at the end of the school year, not do anything all summer and then hit back in the fall. I quickly realized we were having to go back and do a lot of learning and relearn some things that we were doing at the end there, or just like remind them of certain things. They were having a harder time getting back into school, having a schedule, routine, all of those things. So what I started doing after I realized that was a battle I was not wanting to have, that's when I would still have light language arts, or at least reading, or maybe some writing, like a journal prompt. So like very, very little work, maybe like a half an hour to an hour of school each day, and that is Bible time, language arts, and math. Like I kept it very short, very easy. That's when I break out like the workbooks that you can get at like Costco or any of those other stores, Amazon, because it was like I just wanted to have a little bit, so we're staying in the routine, we're still doing some of this stuff, we're not losing the information that took us all year to learn. And that was just something that I had to learn. So there are going to be times like that. Like, what is something, like if you are coming up against a challenge, you have to kind of do a step back of like, okay, how can I meet my kids in this? How can I take care of myself in this? Like, is this just kind of like a shifting thing? Do I have to lighten the load? Maybe we put a pin in this lesson, or we put a pin in this unit or this curriculum and we come back to it. I often will do, like, I will notice there are days where it's just like nobody's, I don't want to do it, the kids don't want to do it, like nobody is into doing school right now. And what we will usually do, and this is often like once the weather gets better, it's like more sunshiny and warm, that's when I really notice it. Like the kids want to be outside, and so what I'll do is I will take our lessons outside, or I will just do like a picnic and a read out loud, and we will just play and we will just read, or we'll do our Bible time or whatever it is. We'll just go take it outside and shift things up a little bit, because like they want to be outside. I don't want to fight with them to do their lessons inside. Maybe we lean more on nature studies for science, and we just have more discussions and things like that out there. It doesn't have to be a certain way, and you don't have to do things a certain way. You don't have to do certain curriculums. You don't have to have certain subjects, depending on, of course, your state, your regulations, all of those things. That'll come into play, and that's something you have to look into depending on what state you are and what your the homeschool regulations are. There are certain lessons, but there are ways that you can do certain lessons, or you can do a certain subject. You know, maybe we are going outside and we're gonna talk about a certain bird, and we're gonna research some facts about a bird, and we're gonna draw that bird, and so there, science is done. So it doesn't have to be textbook, workbook lessons. You can get creative with it. And I just really want to emphasize, like, I have struggled a lot in my homeschool. I have not felt confident enough to ever, like, I think this is my absolute first homeschool video I have ever created. I've been on YouTube and creating videos for over 2 years now, and I have just felt so insecure about it, because there are people out there that are far more credible and experienced, and like they got their stuff together, right? And I just felt like it's so weird. I don't know the right way to say it, but I have felt very insecure in sharing any of this, because I have been so challenged by homeschool. And though I love it and is one of the best things I've ever done, and I'm so thankful for it, and each year I enjoy it and I'm more thankful and I love it more, it didn't start out that way. I had a very rocky, rough start. It's not something I ever saw myself doing. It's not something that I was prepared to do, and it's been a lot of learning for me, a lot of unlearning, a lot of adjusting and shifting and being flexible. Like, there's been a lot. It's been a huge learning process for me, and like I said, I love it and I'm so thankful for it, but I just didn't feel like I was in a place that I can help somebody else or tell somebody else, because I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out after and a half, almost 7 years of doing this, like, I'm still learning, and I feel like it's just a consistent process. I was having a conversation with somebody who is just starting out. She's only homeschooling one little one, and she was like, oh my gosh, give me all of your information. And she was just so thankful after I had that conversation, and I realized I might not be able to help somebody who is farther along or has more of a background or a teaching background or any of those things, but for the mom who's just starting out, or the mom who's lacking confidence, or the mom that's feeling challenged and thinking that there's something wrong with her, that mom I can speak to, that mom I can help, because that is me. And homeschool it's a challenge for me. It's something that I'm growing and learning in, and it's not easy, and I have to figure out what works for me, what works for my kids in the season of life that we're in. And over these last 6.5, 7 years, I have switched things up. So I have switched curriculums, I have switched learning styles, I've switched schedules, I've switched routines, I have switched, like, if it could be changed, it has been changed. I'm constantly reevaluating, I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly figuring this stuff out. And just because it used to work before, or it has worked for me, it doesn't mean that it's going to continue to work, or it's always going to work. Just because certain kids did really well with certain curriculums doesn't mean every one of your kids is going to do well with that curriculum. Like, I think that there's maybe one curriculum that I can think of, history of the world, or the story of the world for history. That is the one curriculum that I think that I have been consistent with since I started. I think it's the only curriculum that has worked for all of my kids, because you can really tailor it. It's a group style. I also really love, if you're looking for more group lessons and like incorporating multiple subjects into one unit, like going more into a unit study, I really recommend Gather Around. That is an amazing curriculum, especially, like, it's a Christian curriculum. I'm almost positive, like, it's Christian curriculum, and it's just more geared towards the group style of learning in units, and it incorporates multiple subjects into one, and that is a great way to get started if you're just starting out, or you're wanting to figure out how to teach all of your kiddos, because that was probably one of my biggest issues, is that I was trying to do everything separately for everyone, and I realized very quickly, very early on, that is not going to work. And that's when I switched over to group science and history, because you can go over a certain lesson or a certain time frame or a certain subject, unit, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you're going over in science and history, you can do it in a way that is broad, where you can incorporate things for certain students at certain levels, and it made it so much easier for me. Okay, I'm just basically rambling, but I really want to emphasize there are challenges, and you're going to have to shift things and be flexible, but a homeschool schedule is to support you and accommodate you and your family and what works well for you. You shouldn't be trying to force yourself to fit a schedule. You should be having a schedule fit your family. A homeschool schedule is to accommodate you, not the other way around. And oftentimes I think that people feel like, or they believe, they think that they have to do things a certain way, and they're forcing themselves to fit the schedule versus making the schedule fit them. I want you to be patient with yourself, be patient with the process, trust that you will figure it out. The fact that you want to learn and you're looking for ways to help you be the most efficient and effective that you can be with your homeschool schedule says a lot about you. And give yourself grace, be patient. It takes time to figure this out. Like I said, I'm doing this 6.5, almost 7 years now. I'm still figuring things out. And, times change, seasons change, life circumstances change, and you have to figure it out. So just, give yourself grace. Give your kiddos grace, be patient. You will figure out what works for you. There is no hard and fast, end all be all when it comes to homeschool scheduling. And I think that needs to be said more. It's about finding the right thing that fits you, not finding the perfect thing that fits everybody. If you guys wouldn't mind liking this video, sharing it out with another homeschool mama or somebody who is considering homeschooling would be super helpful. And if you're not subscribed already, I talk a lot about homemaking and motherhood, and I'm going to be sprinkling a little bit of homeschooling in there as I am inspired and I'm encouraged, and after having some conversations, I really feel like it would be a blessing to people to share more homeschool. And if you're interested in that, let me know down in the comments, what kind of homeschool videos are you looking for? What would you like to hear from me or see from me specifically as a mom of 7 who has different like age ranges? Maybe it's different curriculums, whatever. Just let me know down in the comments. I would love to create content that would be helpful for you and get you unstuck, or just at least feel encouraged. I appreciate you all for watching. I'm so thankful, every single one of you. I love you all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!